Welcome, Red Eyes members. Thank you for tuning in. It's nice to have you along. We have Lynn Picknett and Clive Prince with us, and we are going to change gear a bit in this second segment and talk about their book, The Stargate Conspiracy, this fascinating story that connects Egyptology with the secrets of the pyramids, remote viewing, Freemasonry, NASA, the face on Mars, Uri Geller, even Alice Crowley and L. Ron Hubbard, Edgar Casey, ufology, SRI, and I can go on and on here. There's so many subjects that are coming together under this umbrella, if you will, of the Stargate conspiracy. And this is about how this is potentially being brought back into the modern world, if you will, and it's kind of wrapped in a veil of mystery and intrigue. And the question is if there is a more sinister plan behind this to create kind of a new belief system, if you will. Very interesting. So I want to begin at the top and basically get a little bit on your take of what the Stargate is. There are so many different theories out there right now of what this is and what it means and so forth. But in regards to the Stargate in the title of your book, how would you define it?
Well, can I first explain how we came to write the book? Because after we wrote the Templar Revelation, in which we were looking at towards the end of the book anyway, looking at the Egyptian roots of some aspects of Christianity, and we thought it would be great to write a book that concentrated on Egyptian religion, ancient Egypt. But as we started to look into it, we got more and more intrigued by what seemed to be going on in modern Egypt. And we're talking about the sort of lead up to the millennium, when there was this very fevered atmosphere about all sorts of belief systems. So that's kind of how we came to write a book about Egypt, but actually it ended up not the book that we were going to write. It was a book about modern Egypt very largely. Interesting.
And the Stargate, is there a connection here to the ancient gods of the ancient world, and does that imply that there even is an extraterrestrial connection here?
Well, that's one of the main questions that we found ourselves dealing with. Just in terms of the title, we called it Stargate Conspiracy, one because we needed to call it something, and this phrase Stargate was obviously one that kept coming back again and again. Obviously, it goes. We remember the movie of the mid-90s that kind of linked that extraterrestrials and ancient Egypt, which always seems to be an irresistible connection.
Right.
Part of the reason for that is because in the ancient Egyptian language, for reasons nobody really knows, they use the same word for star and gate, as if they saw the stars in some way as gateways or some kind of connection between them. But even in other ways, that one of the things that we brought into this story, or that we realized was connected with this story, was the American Pentagon's remote viewing experiments from the 1980s and 90s, when they were trying to use for military and intelligence purposes. They were exploring the military and intelligence potential of paranormal abilities, such as what used to be called clairvoyance, but they decided to call remote viewing. And one of their projects, they gave the name Project Stargate for no particular. We don't know why they did that. So it's a phrase that kept coming back, and as we needed a handy shorthand for what we thought was going on, the conspiracy we thought was at the heart of it. Thought, let's call it Stargate Conspiracy. Looking at this, as you said, it's the connection between ancient Egypt and extraterrestrials.
Right.
And this was the kind of thing that we were kind of grappling with in the 90s when we were doing this research. Because in that lead up to the millennium, there was a lot of interest and speculation about suppressed discoveries in Egypt. Something about the ancient world that was actually directly related to the modern world. Something was going to be discovered. You remember all that debate about the Hall of Records supposed to be underneath the Sphinx?
Yeah, definitely.
That would, when it was found, would not only solve the mysteries of the origins of the Egyptian civilization, but be something directly relevant to changes in the world today.
Yeah.
And that it seemed to be connected in some way to an extraterrestrial origin of human civilization, of extraterrestrial guidance of civilization, and the opening of the Stargate at the time of the millennium or shortly afterwards was supposed to kind of represent perhaps the re-establishing of contact with those extraterrestrials that the ancient world regarded as gods, space gods, if you like. Now, this is all the things that we were looking at and were researching, and there came a moment in our research when we actually realized that that's what we were supposed to think. That's what a lot of this information, or actually most of it was rumors of undiscovered things beneath the pyramids or the Sphinx or somewhere in Egypt that was going to reveal this, that we were supposed to be thinking that somebody was deliberately manipulating all these great archetypal ideas, essentially to create a new religion for a new millennium. And like all the old religions, it would be the people in charge of that, the ones who had access to communication with these star gods, who would be the ones with the power, whether the star gods existed or not. And that's one of the kind of things that we had to grapple with. There's this whole thing converging on the idea that the great gods of ancient Egypt, particularly the 9 gods of the great Ennead,
right,
of the religion of Heliopolis, which was the religion that motivated the building of the pyramids, that these 9 gods were actually extraterrestrials. They were about to return, and that certain people would be, the channel for their revelation. But we think the whole thing was actually a manipulation in order to make us think that.
And also, I mean, rather worryingly, one of the things in the background to all this is that it builds on the idea that humanity could never have done, the great achievements, for example, building the Great Pyramids in Egypt. We could never have done it for ourselves. We needed help, or it was done by extraterrestrials.
Right.
I find that very worrying, actually.
Right.
That putting humanity down and automatically looking for, an external source.
Yeah, definitely. That's a very good point. And I mean, it's someone then, seems to be promoting this idea, and this might be, unbeknownst to independent authors and so forth that are doing their own research on their own end, but then in the end, maybe then potentially they are being encouraged, if you will, by this group that is promoting the idea. But maybe we can get into a little bit more of who potentially it is that is promoting this particular new religion, if you will, of the New Age then.
Right. In a way, it's the usual suspects, I suppose, because certainly in the main people that are pulling the strings are the intelligence agencies, particularly the American intelligence agencies. So no surprise there. Now, one of the reasons we came to this was, as many of your listeners that will have followed the story of recent discoveries or alleged discoveries in Egypt. So there was a huge amount of this going on in the mid to late 90s as everyone geared up towards the millennium.
Yeah.
One of the things that got people thinking was that a lot of the companies, the American companies that were involved in looking for things in ancient Egypt, who were rumoured to be digging for things in ancient Egypt, in modern Egypt, rather, were American companies like SRI International, which were very heavily tied into the American defence and intelligence community.
And that's
huge amounts of contracts there.
And that's the
A
Stanford.
lot of people were saying, aha, that means the American government must know there's something there, really. So that's the clue, that's the giveaway. But we looked at it from a very different point of view. So, again, maybe they're not there because the American government knows there's something going on, but because they want to create the impression that they know that something's going on. It's a rather more kind of subtle version of it. So one is the intelligence agencies. Two, it was very closely linked to certain secret societies, certain Masonic orders, that seem to at least have, they'd borrowed some of the ideas from the mythology of Freemasonry, for example, and seeded this into a growing myth that was getting everyone really excited getting up to the new millennium. And we actually wrote the Stargate Conspiracy, which came out in the summer of 1999.
Right. Oh.
Because we could actually see, if some kind of big event was going to be manipulated in some way, say on Millennium Night, after seeding all this kind of, creating all this expectation, manipulating all these archetypal ideas and getting everyone so emotionally wrapped up in looking towards Egypt at the millennium, we basically wrote the book as a warning to say, if anything happens, don't take it at face value.
Right.
But that's not to say that the book, once the millennium came and gone, there wasn't, a UFO hovering over the Great Pyramid at midnight on the last day of December 1999. Mm-hmm. That means that the conspiracy went away. It could be gearing up, say, for 2012 now as the date. It's
right.
But it's the book is really about the manipulation of belief and showing how different ideas drawn from different Masonic and esoteric traditions were being used, and probably are at the moment being used, by quite hard-headed, military and intelligence types in order to manipulate the way a lot of people think.
And, the intelligence agencies, would you think that they are in the hands from the more, the thinkers, if you will, than, let's say, of an esoteric branch of Masonic orders or other secret societies, that there are men involved in these orders that are using or utilizing the power of the intelligence structure, the intelligence agencies, in order to progress this agenda? Do you think that's correct, Clive?
Oh, absolutely. One thing that's very hard, because it's such a convoluted and complicated game, is sometimes difficult to tell who's pulling the strings and who's having their strings pulled. Because,
right.
There is, and there always has been, a close tie-up between intelligence agencies and secret societies, particularly Masonic ones. That's just a fact. You can demonstrate this from the record. But it's kind of, does that mean when you've got that situation with a Masonic order that's very closely linked, or that has intelligence agents who are members of a Masonic order, does it mean that the intelligence agent has taken over the Masonic order, or does it mean the Masonic order has taken over the intelligence agency?
Right.
No.
But a lot of the personnel would be the same.
Yeah.
Exactly. There you go. Exactly. And it's interesting to take a look at it, and obviously it's very difficult to pin this down or nail it down. And I guess we have to look at the fruits of what it is that they are doing. And 8 years on from 2000, we're in 2008 now. Have we made any kind of contact? Many people suggest that the contact, if you will, then that is going on is in another nature. People are looking at the potential of even a faked alien invasion, the UFOs that are flying around in over many areas in the UK right now. That this could in some way actually be connected with the defense industry, and this is actually human-made craft. Lynn, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I believe it's not something that we go into very much in Stargate Conspiracy, because it's a slightly separate issue about UFOs generally, but certainly we believe that a lot of UFO events, and particularly the popular interpretation of them, have actually been stage managed by military and intelligence agencies, and this is actually a matter of record in America. They have actually done this. Now, whether that means